Hey, what's going on guys, it's Jonah, otherwise known as Docs, and welcome to a special one-off video on my channel where today I'll be recapping my saves in FC25 with a look at some of the highlights and I suppose the lowlights of what was a very difficult year of gameplay from me. And I'll also be discussing my plans for FC26 today, which of course will be released on Friday, with my first episode of my first career mode coming out on Friday afternoon at 3 PM UK time. So let's get into the video where of course we start with the first save of FC25, and in what was a really tough year for me, I have to say it didn't start off great either. Like, it was a really tough first save for me. My first save in a career mode year is normally like the big one. It's the main one. I'll be totally honest here. I've got great saves throughout the year, but the first one is always the main Docs career mode. This was a letdown, I'll be totally honest, man. I really found it so enjoyable, and it set the tone for the entire year, really. The first save was with Ipswich Town, of course, and I didn't enjoy the first few seasons of gameplay. I could already tell instantly it was going to be a really tough year for me to try and get into FC25, and it continued all the way through. We won the Champions League on season 6, I think it was, joined Bologna for a couple of years, won a Serie A, and that was it. The save was over, and it was just such a disappointing start to FC25. I realised throughout the course of the first career mode that this was going to be a very hard game for me to enjoy, and I went on record as saying this throughout the course of the year several times. I'm someone that's played FC since 1999, back when it was known as FIFA, of course. So for someone that has played and owned a copy of every single version of the franchise for over 26 years now, that's a quarter of a century. To call this the worst version of the franchise is a pretty damning description of the gameplay. I don't mince my words, and I'm not going to hold back on it either. It really was a terrible game this year. I thought it was terrible from the gameplay itself, to the bugs, to the glitches, to a number of things, really. It was an awful game to enjoy, and the first save kind of set the tone in that regard. Thankfully, it wasn't all bad this year. I was still able to enjoy a couple of my saves, as you guys would have seen. The following save was really fun. I took a 3-week break after the first save, and I thought to myself, should I just stop making FC videos this year and play another game? Because this is a terrible game to play. I thought, no, I'll do one more career mode. Maybe it'll help me recapture my love for the game. And it definitely did. My following career mode was an RTG save with Plymouth Argyle, beginning in Season 2. And I thought to myself, actually, this is pretty fun when I start to do things somewhat differently, but also get back to what I do best, which is creating some great academy players, I should say developing great academy players, and creating a team of youth players and cool players and a unique kind of squad. And this was kind of what I was missing in the Ipswich and Bologna save, really. I wasn't really building a team with an identity. That's when I feel like my career modes kind of have the most amount of spark and magic, if you will. Kind of got back to my old school in this save, and we had some great youth players. Bar, Uono, Nathan Wood, and the man lifting this trophy of the Champions League, King Kante, who was definitely one of my best strikers I've ever had out of an academy as well. No doubt about it. I had some amazing ones over the years, but he was definitely up there as one of the absolute all-time best in the top 5, man. He was incredible. And he definitely helped the save become a lot more enjoyable as well. So I was glad I did decide to come back, because during that time, one of my friends who I was talking to at the time as well, he'd testified to this. I was literally saying, I might just stop making videos, you know, like genuinely, I might just stop making videos for a while, you know, not just 3 weeks, but for a while, and maybe even just start playing a different game until FC26. I'm glad I decided not to do that, because this save really reignited my interest in career mode, and yeah, we were able to be a really cool team with Plymouth Argyle here, and it definitely gave me a reason to carry on. Unfortunately, during this time, I was dealing with something very difficult in my personal life. For those of you who've been around for a while, you would know that my dad had been very sick for a few years, and during this time his health was deteriorating rapidly. I remember over the Christmas period I spoke to him on Christmas Day itself, and then just a couple of weeks later when I was speaking to him over the phone, he had basically lost his mind completely. My brother was with him at the time, and he had had a rapid deterioration in cognitive function. So of course, during this time, I was going down to see my father and to see my family. And my dad's health was rapidly deteriorating to a point where he could no longer be left alone. He was under 24-hour care, and it was a very difficult time as he continued to slide towards the end. He was still alive as this save was going on during my La Liga career mode, which again just did not hit the mark. The Plymouth Argyle save was really, really good, but this was just absolutely awful, man. Like a genuinely really difficult career mode to play this one. And it also featured my heaviest loss in a Champions League final ever. Now, I've lost many Champions League finals. This was my heaviest loss I'd ever had. I took on Liverpool and I got thrashed 5-1, and the only trophy I won in this save was the La Liga title. But yeah, the Champions League, I got absolutely obliterated. My worst ever defeat in a CL final, man. It was embarrassing. But yeah, obviously away from the videos, away from YouTube, I was obviously dealing with something very difficult indeed. And it's always so hard, you know, as someone like myself, you know, I don't broadcast everything on YouTube. I don't broadcast everything that's going on in my personal life. Sometimes I'll let you guys behind the curtain, but really for me, what I've tried to do over the more recent years is kind of separate my YouTube, my kind of like online presence, if you will, from my own personal life. So when you're dealing with things in your personal life, you're not talking about during the videos, and you're trying to, you know, remain as entertaining as you ordinarily would be. It's obviously very difficult to do that when you're dealing with something, well, the ultimate thing to be dealing with, the loss of a parent and watching his health slowly deteriorate over a number of weeks to then months. It's not easy to do that. I was doing my best to remain as entertaining as possible in all the videos I was making, all the episodes I was producing, but it was very hard to do that at times. And yeah, it can be hard when you're kind of keeping all that stuff private and trying not to let it affect your entertainment and your video creation. Obviously, very, very difficult to do, and I was struggling mightily during this time. So yeah, as he continued to deteriorate in terms of health, I was still trying to upload. I was still trying to be, you know, as entertaining as possible. I was also losing money every single month because at this point, as I mentioned before, YouTube is no longer my full-time job anymore. It's just something I do for fun. I don't really earn much money on it anymore. I just do it because I love making YouTube videos. I was trying to find a new job, and I was just constantly getting met with rejection day after day after day. Anyone that's looking for a job in the UK right now, you will share my frustration. I share your frustration. I could not get a job. I had a few interviews. I was getting rejection emails every single day. So I'm dealing with what is failure to find a job whilst also struggling with my dad's deterioration in health, and also couldn't even find, you know, enjoyment playing FC because the game was so trash this year. It was just such a difficult time in my life at this point. And during this career mode here, which was the realistic career mode with Leicester and Manchester United, as those of you who watch this career mode will know, unfortunately my dad passed away. It was the third season I did with Leicester, and he passed away during that time. And yeah, it was obviously very difficult to deal with that. I got to see him one last time before he passed away, a couple of weeks before he passed, and I got to sit with him, and he didn't even know who I was. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know where he was. It's just awful, absolutely awful. Seeing someone, you know, deteriorate to that level where they literally don't even know their name or where they're even at is just awful. And it was a horrible experience, as anyone who's lost a loved one who has seen them get to that level would know. You wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. It's a horrible feeling. But thankfully I got to see him one last time until he passed away, and we then had the funeral for him as this part of the career was going on. And it was nice in a way that I was able to use Manchester United around this time as well, because for those who don't know, my dad was a lifelong Manchester United fan. He followed him home and away, despite being someone from London. And I know the jokes about, you know, Londoners supporting Manchester United. He was a lifelong Manchester United fan. He watched him home and away. He went to Europe when he was younger. Watched him play European away days, and yeah, so it was kind of nice that for the first time I got to manage Manchester United. I'd never managed them before, and it was kind of nice and kind of fitting, really, that the first time I would do so was during this period where my dad unfortunately ended up passing away. And yeah, it was nice that I was able to win a trophy in this save with the Champions League as well. So it had been a very tough time, and thankfully not long afterwards I was able to find full-time employment, and I was able to get a job, which was a big weight off my shoulders financially. I was losing money every single month. I was really struggling with what was going on with my dad's declining health, and obviously his passing away as well. But yeah, things kind of turned around after I finally got a new job. But I kept on uploading every single day, as hard as it is to do that when you're, working a full-time job, to have time to do your boring adult responsibilities, to keep yourself in good shape, going to the gym, keep your social life alive, possibly dating life as well, and to be doing YouTube as well. I realized I now had basically no free time for this anymore, but I was still finding the time to do it because I love making videos so much, and I was glad in the following two saves, or my final two saves of the year, they were really enjoyable saves. It was a really tough year for me for gameplay and career mode, but the final two saves I did were really, really enjoyable, to be fair. My final foreign-based save was with Borussia Mönchengladbach in the Bundesliga, and it featured one of my craziest cup finals ever, where we drew 4-4 with Bayern Munich and then beat them on penalties, which was just absolutely class. Although, of course, we did have the Champions League final defeat to Real Madrid. I think I lost 4-2 in this one, but it was still a really, really cool save. I really, really enjoyed it. It definitely reignited some passion after my last two saves weren't the most enjoyable. This was a really cool save, even with a bit of a heartbreaking conclusion, but it definitely brought back some new kind of like blood, if you will, into my feelings for career mode. I really enjoyed this save, but the one thing I didn't do in this save enough was develop youth players, and so for my final save, which of course I just finished on FC25, I decided to do something a little bit different, and we started Oxford United. It was an RTG starting in the second tier, and I made this rule, as you'll see in a moment, where we had to have a youth player in the starting 11 every single league game, and +1 per season. So in season 1 we needed 1 youth player in the first 11, season 2 we needed 2, season 3 we needed 3, season 4 we needed 4, and so on and so forth, all the way through to our 6th and what was final season. But it was a really awesome save. It was the first time doing a project like this, where again we actually had a rule for a set number of youth players we needed in a team, as opposed to just playing whoever we wanted and whenever we wanted. And it was what I realised that I was missing throughout the course of this year's career mode. I had youth players that were featuring in some of my CMs, but not as prominent as they used to be. And youth players are, of course, what makes Doc's career modes great, right? And I hadn't really done it as much this year, but no coincidence, the time and the save that I enjoyed the most, which was the Plymouth Argyle save, was the one where I was using youth players more frequently. So it was like, come on, like, so how did you not make the connection? The reason why you weren't enjoying it as much, or one of the reasons, was because you weren't using the youth academy as much. And that's why this save was probably my most enjoyable in FC25. Probably on par, actually, with my Plymouth Argyle save. It was a really cool save, doing something different, and unfortunately it did feature probably the moment that summed up FC25 for me. This was just ludicrous, and this was one of the reasons why I just could not enjoy FC25 this year. Too many bugs, too many glitches, too many stupid things, and this summed up the whole year for me. For those who didn't watch it, basically, Carabao Cup semi-final, Season 5, just made our first cup final in the save, winning a penalty shootout, and the game glitched, said we lost, and Brentford took our place. At that moment, I was officially done. I mean, I was glad that it came towards the end of FC25, but it still summed it up for me, just how bad this game was. But it was a really tough year, really, really tough year for, again, personal and professional reasons, but also for the gameplay within FC25 as well. But the one thing I would say is that your support throughout the year was fantastic. My dad passed away. I got some lovely messages from you guys, lovely comments as well. I really, really appreciate that. It was a very difficult time for me, but you guys were certainly there when I really needed it. My dad is the reason why I love football. My dad is the reason why I got into football. My dad is the reason why I played and watched football and still do to this day. So for his passing, obviously a very difficult time for me in my life. You guys were there for me during that time. You were there for me whilst I was struggling to find some employment and really struggling day in, day out of getting rejection emails, as we were all used to, But your support throughout the year was fantastic. And so I do want to end this video by saying thank you for that. It really was a tough year for me, but your support didn't waver during this time. And for that, I'm very thankful. And it's the reason why I carried on all the way till the end. So for FC26, the last minute and a half, I want to talk about this. What are my plans for the new year? Well, as always, career mode will be our main focus. I'm really, really excited for it. We're beginning to save on Friday afternoon. It is with Sunderland. Many of you have been guessing the team, but it is going to be Sunderland. And I'm very excited because the first career mode of mine that I feel like kind of sparked my channel into life featured Sunderland, and we were only there for I think a year and a half, but it was the most noteworthy team of the multiple teams I managed in that save. That was back in FIFA 13, 12 to now 13 years ago, and it really was the save where I was like, oh, everyone wants me to do career mode. And it's, if you remember back then, it was actually career mode and Ultimate Team I was kind of doing together, plus head-to-head seasons. But that was the save where I realized that the majority of my fans, I never like to use the word fans, the majority of my audience, sorry, want me to do career mode. So it really sparked me to totally change my channel's trajectory. And had it not been for that save, I may not be a career mode YouTuber right now. So that's why I'm really excited to use Sunderland again and start with the Black Cats this time at the Stadium of Light. It should be a load of fun. It'll be starting on Friday afternoon. As for other stuff as well, I get asked about Ultimate Team a lot. Honestly, whilst I'm in a house share right now and the internet is trash, I definitely can't play that. I wouldn't mind trying head-to-head seasons, but again, because of the internet situation, probably not. But definitely career mode. Definitely a couple of like challenge-based saves like we do with this Youth Academy one. I'm certainly thinking about a club and country once again. I've got another really cool variation of that, which I might try in FC26. But as well, very briefly, want to touch on this. FM26 is coming out in November. Guys, I'm going to do my absolute best to raise as much money as possible to buy a new computer, because in order to play it, I'll need a new computer, because as you know, it does take a lot of processing power when you're playing with so many leagues loaded and countries and also the logos and face packs like I play with. So I'm going to do my best this year to raise as much money as possible, save as much money as possible, buy a new machine, and FM26. Guys, I'm not going to promise a date, but what I will say is this. At some point, I do expect to play Football Manager again for the first time in years, and I don't want to give too much away because I'm definitely not totally sure I'll have enough money to do so, but that is my plan for this year. I would like to return doing Football Manager videos again. But that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching, and again, thank you for all supporting FC25. A really tough year for me, but once again, you guys have been with me from the start till the end, and all I can say is thank you so much for that. It was one of the most difficult years I've had in adulthood, but you guys were there for me all the way throughout, whether I was dealing with personal things, professional things, or just things with YouTube as well. From the very start, you guys were there until the very end, and for that I say thank you sincerely once again for all your great support on FC25, and we will start FC26, the career mode, episode number 1 on Friday afternoon, 3 PM UK time. Set your alarm. We'll be starting with Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. Thank you, as always, guys. Much love to you, and I'll see you for the first episode on my FC26 career mode with Sunderland very soon.